Let us begin. Baruch Hashem, this is week 4. Well, it's really like week 6, but week 4 officially of our 4-part Chizik, Halacha, and all of between Hilchos Nida. For those who are curious, yes, Shovavim is over officially. And for those who want to figure out what difference is Shovavim and where does Shovavim come from, and do some research. It's a fascinating to think about. But either way, always could learn a little halach. So we're going to try to wrap things up in the world of Hilchos Nida today as much as we could. I know we mentioned that we really should do a whole share on birth control. Maybe I'll give a few pointers. Maybe we'll give a whole share. We'll have to see. We'll give a few pointers, which maybe broad strokes might help. And there's already been requests for the next series maybe to be about money, to take a deep dive into money, into Meiser, into all money-related areas that maybe we all could use chizik in. I mean, yeah, our bank accounts use chizik also, but maybe by learning the halachas. So, okay, we will get to B'siyat Shmaya. So really, what we were supposed to talk about today is the end of the tefillah, the nida process, which is the mikvah, and everything in between. Mikvah and everything in between. I'll just start with just 2-3 minutes just on birth control, just some broad strokes, because Lamaisa, I've gone through many speeches, shiurim, seminars, going through all the different scientific, halachic, different types of birth controls and how they work, and understanding the hormones and understanding everything in between and the kitchen sink. And the truth is, I'll just tell you from a personal perspective, the science changes so rapidly that you get equipped, and then 6 months later, a year later, if you don't talk to an expert, you're totally outdated. So to equip everyone with a little bit of knowledge is important, but what's most important is to know that science is rapidly changing, and there are great options out there. But with that, let's just talk about it for 2 moments. Birth control is a tremendous shayla. Those who've learned the Gemara in Yavamas elsewhere, and the shayla basically is that lahalacha, every act of tashmish has to have the potential eventuality to bear a child, meaning in our physical realm. Now, if God has other plans, that's a different story, and that would include a zekena, that would include a mu'uberes, that would include a menika, an old woman, a woman who's pregnant, a woman who's nursing, and if that woman doesn't get pregnant again or can't get pregnant, that's out of our control. We're allowed to play by physical rules, but to go and take a medication to do something that would potentially not allow a pregnancy to happen is a shayla. It's a massive shayla lahalacha, massive shayla. Just to quote some of our gedalim, just to understand what's going on here, of Chaim Pinchas Scheinberg was violently opposed, and it's yedua. It's not even like a prasta thing to say. It's yedua that some of the closest families, those who Rav Scheinberg was there, Meir Derech, had massive families. We're talking 15, 20 children. Massive families, and kacha. That was Rav Scheinberg's Meseira. That was his mahalach. He felt that the shayla was so great that it had to reach a point that it was mamish yigia and mayim anafish. You push it, you couldn't deal at all. Now, not like we say we couldn't deal, like not shaykh. No, we all know that our Meseira, our conventional psak halachas, we don't really go down that road as much. We go more within the realm of we have to figure out what one could handle. Within what one could handle is where the approach to birth control comes from. It is important to note, not no one here is just married, but most always for eternity until very recently espoused the belief that when you get married, you don't go on birth control right when you get married. What do you mean? I want a honeymoon, and I want time to tour, and I want time to party, and I want time to vacation. So I'll just quote Rabbi Wiener. Rabbi, he sits with couples, and he says to them, so why are you getting married? Like, tachlis, what's the purpose of marriage? Our Yiddish approach it's not just all about fun and games. There's fun and games also, Baruch Hashem. But our Yiddish approach is not just about fun and games. There's a tachlis. You're getting married to build a family, and if you're avoiding the building the family, then don't get married. Well, wait 6 months, wait a year. Oh, I'm in school. Okay, so wait, no problem. Oh, what do you mean, mamish? Okay, then you work through a Nevada. There are times for a terim. We're not saying it doesn't exist, and even when one is newly married, but just important to know that it is a shayla and it is something that should be addressed. And most important is to note is that there's many different types of birth control, and some of them are halachically viable, and some of them are halachically very, very challenging. I don't want to get in trouble, but there is a college class that's been going around with a noted college teacher that she's been espousing how birth control is terrible and the hormones are horrible and it destroys the woman and it destroys the marriage, and it does. It really does. And those who've been there know. And yes, it's very challenging. And yes, she's off all kilter, and then this, and then that, and then there's the staining, and then there's the spotting, and then there's the mikvah, and it's such a mess. And the amount of couples that end up just saying after, you know what, just forget it. Forget it. You know what? If it's going to be a child, that will be less of a pain than what we're going through. And it's true. It's true. But what whatever, it's not one person, I'm sure it's many, espouses that there's another option, she says, it's called a female diaphragm. And it's so much easier. It's so much easier. So much easier because there's no hormones involved. And you don't really have to worry about anything. And it has the same level of protection. And it is true. All of that is true scientifically. But halachically, it's a massive shayla. Absolutely massive shayla. And I say massive shayla, meaning, is there a makoim perhaps for a kula in a matziv of sakanas nefashos, which could be a woman who mamish can't get pregnant, and if she does, it's going to be deathly. Yes, there is a makoim perhaps, and even in those cases, many gedalim would say, okay, so just don't be together. Mecha tesi, you're allowed to do such a thing. Allowed to do such a thing. And the difference, just understand the science for a quick moment, the difference. And with this, really, we're going to move on to today's topic. The science, the difference is as follows. The way that birth control in general works is that basically it tricks the body to think it's pregnant. So therefore, it doesn't allow the zera, it doesn't allow it to be kaili, it doesn't allow it to take hold. And the way that it does this in fascinating form, and it's incredible science. When you want, if you need something to watch in your downtime, watch some science on this. What it does is it knocks the tail off of the sperm, so it can't swim anywhere. So it just sort of dies going upstream. You can't swim upstream without your tail. That's like the one of them, how it works. It's absolutely incredible. But what it means is that everything is still happening. It's never going to get to fruition. That's very different than the way the female diaphragm works. Is it's physical. It doesn't play with any hormones. It doesn't mimic the body. It doesn't change processes within. What it does is, of course, you can take it on if you want. No, because the difference is very simply. There is a physical barrier. There it is a physical barrier. All it's doing, it's sitting there. And there's another one, a more primitive one. I think it's called the foam. I think as they refer to in the Israelis, hafom or something like not a sponge, which is basically a sponge. It's a sponge, and all it's doing, it's just blocking the zera. So that is a physical barrier. That lahalacha, and this is like the world's largest sugya from every achrain and paisik, weighing in with chuvas 20, 30 pages. So we're not doing it justice right now. And your question is an excellent question because you're asking, Lamaisa Tachlis, at the end of the day, if it's 99.9% she's not going to get pregnant, who cares how it happens? It's true. But the difference is, in broad strokes, we can understand is that what that does is that's a physical barrier. That's similar to a male condom is the same thing. It's a physical barrier, just not allowing the zera in. It's not allowing the zera in. That's different. Correct. And there's different levels in this shayla. And yes, that is a level better than coming from mitzad him, but it's still extremely shvar la'alacha and kemat kol or roiv gedei apaiskim say only b'shas chag gadol. It's just important to note because it is true that if hormones mamish don't work and someone really, really needs something, it's true. But usually, and that's really the point that we are driving to, is that usually it's just a matter of tipul. It's a matter of getting the right one. It's a matter of finding the right doctor. It's a matter of getting the right resources. It's a matter of figuring it out that some women's bodies react better to this, some women's bodies react better to that, and there's no real 100% ironclad science. So it's a process. It's a process. But for one just to say, oh, I'm not dealing with it, and I don't want to deal with hormones, and there are not hormonal ones also, which we could talk about. Do they do work? Do they don't work? Okay, these are all, whatever it is. But that is an important, public consumer announcement that it's not so pashut that any form of birth control, that if someone has a heter for birth control, just do what you want. That's not the way it works. There are different levels within that, and that's a very famous one within the last year or two that's become extremely, extremely popular. And people don't know. People don't know. No, it's not an IUD. IUD is a totally different story. An IUD works mostly either with hormones or it just works by tricking the body. But an IUD, all it is what it does is it's everything, the zera is going in and everything's working. It's just playing. It's playing with the body. This is a physical barrier. It's basically a female condom, if you want to put it in broad strokes. It's called a diaphragm. That's the fancier term for it. And basically what that does is it just sits there and it blocks everything from going in. That is the one that's very, very schwer. Everything else, a NuvaRing, an IUD, and all the different types of pills, and the mini pill, and the estrogen, and all the other pills are basically okay, and you have to find the right one. And they're incredible organizations. They're incredible organizations that help. Tareinu is one organization. There's others. PUA happens to be an incredible organization also for getting the hashkafic, background that you might get caught up in. But Lamaisa, just in the science Shabbai, and they know the science the best. And Rabbi Melber, Lamashal, who's from Tareinu, he's a Rav. And the science that he knows is more than a lot of that. He gives shiurim to doctors. Why? Because they don't care about a lot of the nuances that we care about. And that's the reason why, sometimes we can even find out more. That's a quick broad strokes at birth control. And as I think we mentioned, if we didn't, we'll just mention it now. It's definitely something that should be discussed with the Rav. It's not something which should be public knowledge. In all of Hilchos Nida, there's a thread which maybe we'll get to today, that it's not supposed to be public knowledge. When a woman goes to the mikvah, it's not supposed to be public knowledge. All these things, whether in the secular world it's become normal, which it isn't. We just have to reorient ourselves sometimes. Certainly in our world, it's not. But it's definitely not a matziv that someone should be posting on a group chat. Anyone have any extra, writing the name of the pill, 20 milligrams. So some people say that I don't know, maybe it's like an allergy medication. And other people read that holy cow, did you just put that in public?
They used to wear different colored clothes.
Yeah. Oh, that's a good kasha. That's a very, very good kasha. It's very good kasha. Yeah, it's a very good kasha. Yeah, it shouldn't be bizayin. It's definitely a good kasha. The lamaisa, that's a good kasha in sugya that we could deal with. But lamaisa, definitely. I know I'm saying that because that was a real story that I've seen. It was forwarded. Rob, do you have any of this extra pill? Someone posted this publicly and they're looking for it. Number one, why does someone post this publicly? Number two, I'm not a drug dispenser. There happens to be, there are gemachs, and there are places that do have. And I guess in this person's defense, they felt, okay, it's better to make themselves feel like a fool and not to run into issues. I hear, but there are other ways. There are other ways to do it, and it's definitely something that should not be done in such a manner. And lastly, a reason to discuss it with a Rav is because a lot of the issues that end up happening are only because we weren't proactive. As we mentioned back in share number 1 about staining, because people don't know to take it at the same time. A lot of these things, they just end up happening because people don't know what they're doing. When there's more of a conversation prior, then it's much easier. And we'll end with the story that just happened last week. It was a woman on a NuvaRing. NuvaRing, if you want to know what it is, basically it's a plastic round, not really a disc. It's almost like, remember the tops of the soda cans that you that little plastic. They know those clever that were able to cut it and make a bracelet out of it. There's always that guy. So that is really what it is. It's just a little bit thicker. It's firm, and it goes by Semakum, and it sits there. It actually floats there. It floats in there, which is a very important nikuda, because la halacha, if she leaves it in by the mikvah, will be mekel. We will be mekel because it's not tight inside of her, but she should take it out, as we take off everything when we go to the mikvah, as we'll get to hopefully in a few moments. And for whatever reason, it was the first time the NuvaRing was in, and it was causing terrible staining. This is right now a chazar of last week's. Listen carefully. It was causing terrible staining. Okay, so she did a hefsek taira, and she did a bedika yom rishon. Excellent. And then she called up on day 4 saying that she's staining. What should she do? She doesn't think she can get clean bedikas. Okay. So we all learned last week is that what do you need to do? You have to do a hefsek. You have to do a day 1 and a day 7. Wonderful. So the response was, okay, when is day 7? Let's be in touch on day 7 to discuss what should be done. That was the response. Why? Because we really need a day 7, but if you can't get a day 7, maybe there's what to play with, and then you could, whatever it was. Lamaisa, the call came in on day 7 that she's still staining. Okay, so we were trying to figure it out. I got David Cohn on the line, and it's pure foolish flame, because if he's not gesund, Klal Yisrael is in a very, very tough place, and he wasn't gesund. He did not answer the shayla, which is wild. And in any conversation, he came out, oh no, she did a bedika this morning, and it was full of blood. So there's not what you do anymore. If you did bedika and it was full of blood, it's over. It's over, and it was a terrible mistake. It was a horrible mistake. And he had to restart the Zayin. So again, ask shaylas. Don't make foolish mistakes. But you all might be wondering, we said a hefsek 1 in 7 is mamish, you need. And if you can't have it, you can't go to the mikvah. So there is an Aruch HaShulchan, other shitas, and maybe b'shas chak, if we're weighing, pushing off a mikvah for 7 days, versus that, there maybe would be what to rely upon in a world that we realize why she's standing right now. We all know why she's staining. She's not her period. She's staining because of the maneuvering. The body takes time to acclimate. So that's just the chazar of last week, is that yes, you need a hefsek 1 in 7, but if you're ever nervous, ask beforehand. Don't ask afterwards. Yes. What? No, you never can skip the first one. But I'll say it again. If someone does, let's say, a hefsek, and day 1 comes, and she's dating, and she doesn't know what to do, so you know what you do? You pick up the phone, and you ask beforehand. Asking afterwards is the milk is already spilled on the floor. We got to get it back in the bottle. It's a lot more difficult and usually impossible. So ask beforehand. And is there what to be done? Hopefully Rav David Cohen will have a complete refuah shalema. Okay. That was all begeder birth control. That was half this year, which is perfect, and I hope that gives a little bit of clarity. And again, most importantly, is the fact that it's not a flippant. It's a pill. Just do what you want with it. It should be a discussion. Many Rabbanim will say, come for 6 months and then talk. Only 6 months? I need to be on birth control for a year, 2 years, 3 years. All it means is call after 6 months. The Rav just wants to have a conversation with you. Why? Usually it's the taivas cha. It's to try to help, to make sure things are working, because sometimes after 6 months you talk, you're like, oh yeah, by the way, in the last 6 months it's been such a mess, and there's been staining. Why didn't you call nach? Whatever. What do you mean, whatever? By the way, you could change the pill, and there's other pills you could take, and there's natural remedies, and you can take zinc, and you can take this. There's things that we could do, This is regular science. This is regular science, like anything else in the world. Okay, Givaldik, let's move on. When it comes to going to the mikvah, so really the reason why we took half the share for that is because the reality is going to the mikvah, this is the one area that, everything else you could talk about with your wife. She's the one that's preparing to go to the mikvah. She's the one that has to do it. But what we're going to talk about is a few of the shaylas which are negeya, which is number 1, the timing of mikvah preparations, the timing of the mikvah, and what to do in those horrible shasat chak scenarios. It's really the bulk. The actual mikvah preparations we'll mention in passing, but that's not as important. Okay, so the timing, there's a thing called chafifa. Chafifa literally means to scrub. It's a term that's used to, put shampoo in your hair. It's chafifa. But it refers to, in the Lashon HaChazal, it refers to the mikvah preparations. Mikvah preparations. And what I'm referring to is that we're now at the end of our Zayin Nikiyim. We've gone through the entire process. She did her hefsek. She did her Yom Rishon. She did her Yom Shvi. Givaldik. So she woke up this morning. She got a bedika, clean bedika. Givaldik. Tonight is mikvah night. Everything is great. So what's the question? The question is, how do you prepare to go to the mikvah? So we all know what you prepare to go to the mikvah is. Oh, thank you so much. That's perfect. God bless you. The way you prepare to go to the mikvah is she has to make sure she has no chatzitza. So what's a chatzitza? Chatzitza literally is an interposition in the words of art called, thank you, Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu, melech haolam shehakol nihiyeh b'dorei. Ooh, wow, fresh bottle. What's chatzitza? Chatzitza is an interposition, which means that the mikvah has to, listen carefully, have the ability to touch every area of your body. not actually touch every area of your body. And that answers up the age-old question, do I need to open my mouth underwater? So you go to some mikvahs, like 60 Haley over here, it's cleaner than my sink. It's probably cleaner than this water, than in a chanami. Then again, after everyone gargles in it, yishladen. But either way, but in other mikvahs, like our, in other mikvahs, then let's not give examples. In other mikvahs, it's not so clean. So do you have to open your mouth? The answer is no, you do not have to open your mouth. You have to open your mouth. What? Which means what? It has to be able. What does that mean? It means you close your mouth gently, gently. You don't clench. Because when you clench your mouth, your lips create folds and the water can't go in. Similarly, you don't clench any area of your body. Now, we're talking when a man goes, which is never going to be a deraisa until Mashiach comes, B'siyat Shmaya very soon. But for when a woman goes, it's a deraisa. So that's basically the oifen atfila is in a very loose position. Lips could be slightly closed in order to that the water could theoretically go in. But before she goes into the water, she has to make sure everything is removed from her body. What does everything mean? Everything means everything. Yes, and I will get in trouble, but I'll say it because it is the halacha, and I still have not yet understood why there are rabbanim who are professing things which are pashtas keneged Ramah. We paskin like the Eliga Ramah. The Ramah says even things which are not be'etzem achatzitza we take off. For example, if a woman's wearing a big long necklace, why is she taking off before she goes into the water? It's completely ridiculous. What's she doing? The answer is because it's all gezir, they're abundance. We take everything off. The only thing which is like a shayla, it's a famous Rashba, is that when something is linoi that you positively want it on. For example, let's say I wanted to dip this cup into the mikvah. Okay, and this, by the way, dipping this cup in the mikvah, if it wasn't plastic, if it was glass, please use your imagination, then it would be a daraisa. Just like a woman going to the mikvah, which is the reason why we've mentioned many times, you cannot bring your kelim to a men's mikvah. First of all, because it's weird. Second of all, because I don't know how you're making the bracha. Third of all, because when you break it, someone else is going to cut their foot. And fourth of all, because the mikvah is actually not kosher. Sorry to break the news to you, men's mikvahs are not kosher daraisa. Usually. Women's mikvahs are. But if you were to bring this cup, and let's say this was a fancy glass cup, it had like a sticker on over here that had the company on it. Very fancy company. And if I have to take off the sticker, then why do I buy the cup? So I run into an issue. What do I do by Tvila? And let's say this sticker wasn't actually a sticker, but it was actually printed on the cup. So the answer is, of course you can leave it on. Why are you allowed to leave it on? It's blocking the cup. The answer is it's linoi. It's for beauty, and therefore we're makel. However, that's by kelim. By a woman, we're not makel lechatchila. Unless it's a shasat chak. And what am I referring to? Referring to all makeup, all of the above, right? A is some of the above. B is E, all of the above, which means she has to take off her nail polish. It's a sivit shulchan aruch. She has to take it off. She has to take it off. And yes, a gel manicure has to be taken off also. And I know that there's a Rav in town not in this town. There's a Rav in the global Monsey area that professes that no, it's mamish lechatchila to get a gel manicure. I have zero clue where he's coming from, and it's keneged shulchan aruch. Now, I'll tell you where he's coming from, but just we're b'nei Torah in this room, so we could speak this way. He's coming from, and this is for sure true also, if a woman's not going to go to the mikvah, if she has to take off her gel manicure, that's a different story. That's a private shayla. That's a shasat chak. Discuss it with a rav, and it's real. Givaldik. A woman has a simcha. A woman has a challenging matziv, and whatever it is. Okay, great. We could deal with it. But we're dealing by lechatchila. We're from Erlich Yidin Yari Shamayim, learning Torah on a Sunday morning when we could be doing a million other things. So you want to know, is it lichatchila to go and have a nail polish? Absolutely. No one can say it's lichatchila. You want to say there are shitas to rely upon givaldik. And by the way, and I mean this not facetiously, if a woman needs those shitas, and there are times, I don't know if I repeated this story, but I should. I asked her, this is going back 13 years ago. I said, Rav, what's pshat with all the kulas in Ochas Nida? This is 13 years ago. What's pshat? He said, you do it to make them. What's pshat? So he said, I asked this Rabbi Reisman years ago. So time is important. We're going about, let's say, 15 years. He asked Rabbi Yisrael Reisman from Flatbush, what's pshat with all the kulas? And he said, right, Reisman said to me, if you were to know the nisyonis that the young chaver are going to, you would also be makel. And then Irwina turned to me and he said, if you were to know the challenges that the couples are going to, you'll also be makel. That was 15 years ago. So certainly in a world that we're living in, that yes, avada, if there's someone who's struggling, and there are those, unfortunately, who are struggling in these areas, then avada, it's a shayla, and yes, there could be a makkah to be makel. But we're dealing we're dealing with what is the right thing to do. Right thing to do is simple letter of the law. Is yes, nail polish, including a gel manicure, should be removed. It should be scheduled appropriately. Yes, the nails should be cut. Do they need to be cut down to the point that she's bleeding and in pain? No, it has to be. I cut my nails recently. It should be that your nails should basically be level with the skin. And it is true. There are some women who this is a very big, difficult thing for them. They like their nails a little bit longer, and they know you go to this mikvah over here, they're more makbid. You go to that mikvah over there, they're more makel. Okay, no, that's not the end of the world. But she'll clean underneath the nail to massive machlokes, shach and taz, famous machlokes, which is it meek or is it cleaning under the nail or is it cutting the nail? Okay, that's already something to discuss, but not to leave the nail polish on. And that's basically chafifas. You got to remove everything. We have 5 minutes left. I think we're going to get there. You have to remove everything from the body. Everything from the body. What does chafifa entail? So we think it entails a bath. It's a mistake. L'chatchila, a bath is needed. It is not ma'akiv. Very important, because shivera matziv. It boils back to what we keep talking about. Don't just assume, oh, I'm out here, there's no bath, blah, 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 blah. Okay, that's a shower. Maisa, a good shower work. When do you do the chafifa? L'chatchila to machlekes, Shiltas and Rashi. We don't have time to go into the sugya, but l'maisa, when do you do the chafifa? When do you do the mikvah preparations? L'chatchila, you're supposed to be samoch l'shkia, and then into nacht. That's l'chatchila. And the reason is we're getting a bridge over here. If you're remembering, it's not the first time we had Sinochas Nida. We're trying to combine the day with the night. That's Machlekes Rashi and the Shiltas trying to get both shitas. So l'chatchila is a half hour before Shkia, she should start the mikvah preparations, and then go to the mikvah bismanai, and then she gets both. Problem is, life doesn't necessarily work that way. What's she supposed to do? She has the kids home in the afternoon. How's she sitting there in the bath for a half hour? And by the way, the whole reason for this design is so she's not rushed. The machlekes, whether she should do the chafifa at night or by day, is bedafka, so she's not rushed. That's the crux of the machlekes, Rashi and the Shiltas. So we have to understand that that's what we're looking for. So if she's going to go and say, okay, kids, play, I'll be back in 17 minutes, and go run upstairs. There's nothing more rushed than that in the world, and that doesn't work. It doesn't work. So we have to create a matziv that she's not rushed. So therefore, we have to be practical. And for many women, the answer is yes. I have to do it by biker. Can I do it by biker? The answer is yes. You can do it by biker. Can I do it all by nacht? Which also sometimes, especially as families grow and life gets busy, sometimes that's the best eitzah. During the day, it's not shaykh. She can't sneak away. Can she do all the preparations at night? The answer is yes. But when it's all done at night, we say it should be a little bit longer. The Paiskim say it should be about an hour, all the preparations, including a bath for a half hour, which isn't so long. Why? Because you don't want, again, the whole vart is you don't want her to be rushed. You don't want to be rushing to come back home. So we give her that slot. So therefore, the reality is, in the best case scenario, yes, she does her chafifa preparations right before nightfall, and then she goes to the mikvah when she gets her appointment. She does a little more preparations at the mikvah, which means she combs her hair again, she takes a shower, she goes to the mikvah. L'maisa, if that's not possible, she could, yes, do it in the morning, and if that's not possible, yes, she could do it all at night. However, if she's doing it all at night, the place can speak out. She should do something by the daytime. Something. What does it mean, something? What does it mean, something? It can be as simple as cutting her nails. It can be as simple as washing her under her nails. She's doing some form of mikvah preparation. Some places can even say she can take off a bracelet because she's doing something. And the reason it's a machlekes rishonim, so you want to get as many shitas as we can. Okay, that's when you prepare to go to the mikvah. The rest of the preparations is, I'll just give one line. If preparing to go to the mikvah is a big deal, it's a problem. It should not be a big deal. If it's a big deal and a woman gets all crazy, oh my gosh, and you do then that means there's a problem, and a rav should be consulted, because it should not be a big deal. Yes, there's steps. Yes, it's a checklist. Yes, she has to, if she shaves, she has to do her nails, and she has to do her hair, and she has to clean out everything. It's true, and she has to be in a bath. It's true, but this is not like rocket science. Like, come on, this should not be so complicated. If it's a matzah that is complicated, she should ask a shayla, because that probably means something is being done wrong, and it could be fixed and create yishuv hadas, and which is extremely important. Extremely important. even more important because it's the most beautiful mitzvah for a woman. So why should it be something that's charged with emotion? It should be charged with happiness. The day of the tefillah, Yadua, is a day of tefillah. A woman should daven. Well, husband also could daven that day. It's an incredible mitzvah. It's one of the three mitzvahs that is miyuchad for a woman, and therefore it's a zman of tefillah. Lamaisa, if one has to push off a mikvah, let's just give a disclaimer. We're out of time in a minute, so I'm just going to give a few disclaimers, and then we'll call it a day. Which is as follows: someone has to push off a mikvah. What does it mean have to? Have to. I'm not giving any other details. The answer is ask a shayla nachamol, and there's many times it actually is allowed to push off a mikvah. I know that definitely the women are taught that like pushing off a mikvah is the worst avera in the world, mamish. It's not l'chatchila, that's for sure. But we have to weigh all things together. To put it in simple strokes, is that the whole reason a woman should go to the mikvah on time in the sugya is really for her husband, is so that they could be together. But sometimes it becomes such a charged matziv and such a mess. And it's Leil Pesach, and we're with the family, and everyone is just so aggravated that by the time the whole thing's over, it causes more friction than anything. So what do we gain? What do we gain? We have to ask ourselves that question sometimes. But we do everything we can to go to the mikvah on time. However, if it's an impossibility, if it's very, very difficult, ask a shayla. And finally is
there a difference to push off after the Shemina Kimmer to push
good. So that's a big shayla. It's a big machlek. It's the Arabanim that say it's better to push off earlier. And what I would say is, I personally got yelled at from a Arena about that. He said, well, if you push off, you push off. What's the chilek? That's what he yelled. The Arabanim will not that way. But it is important. What you bring up is very good. Is you always should ask early. Asking early will only help. Will only help because there is sometimes things to be done. Number one. Number two is sometimes people say, oh, my husband's on a business trip. I'm not going to go to the mikvah. I'm going to wait for him to come back. Bizman hazeh, that line is shtuyot. The shtuyot. Why is it shtuyot? Because maybe he's going to come back early. We have flights that go all the time. So maybe the last business meeting canceled, and he's like, "Oh, I knew my wife's mikvah was Tuesday night. I was unfortunately unable to come home till Wednesday." And he chaps on Tuesday. You know what? I'll surprise my wife and come home Tuesday. And then Chachama, she was busy and going, and oh no, she didn't go to the mikvah. Shalom aleichem. What are we doing? So there's a whole sugya. What do you do if you go to the mikvah and your husband's not home? Okay, again, Nachum will ask a shayla, different shitas, but lemaisa, definitely plan early is the answer. And I'll conclude with what happens if, and this is really a Pesach shayla that happens every single year with everyone all over the world. Pesach. What happens when Leil Tefillah falls out on a time that there's no mikvah? There's no mikvah. What does that mean? There's a mikvah, but it's like 45 minutes away. So what do I do now? What do I do now? So again, I don't want to be the one quoted as saying this, but we are Yidden, and maybe we should plan appropriately. It's like a little bit of a funny zach. What, I shouldn't go somewhere Pesach if there's no mikvah? Okay, I don't know. Yishladin, we'll say it as that. Friday night is true. Now, again, we do have a mikvah in town. So someone told me recently that people don't know about it. I don't believe it. I told the person that said it to me, I don't believe it. I'll tell you my shot in the story. I know people say it. No, I know people say it. No, I'm not arguing people say it. I know people say it. My shot in the story is that people didn't want to walk on a freezing night 25, 30 minutes. So they were embarrassed to say, it's freezing night. So instead they said, oh, there's a mikvah, because it's much easier to feign innocence than to actually admit it was difficult. That's my shot in the story, because I can't believe that I try to live under a rock, but even still, what should I tell you? I cannot believe there's someone that has a rock that big that they're living under. They probably don't know there's a mikvah in town. I'm not massing that exists. So I'm just going to be malamet schos the other way. What should I tell you? This is my cynicism. Maybe I shouldn't say it in public, but I just did. And that is the story. But with that public service announcement, yes, if you know someone new in the community and you think maybe they are so naive, then tell them, yes, there is a mikvah. Now, do you have to walk 25, 30 minutes for a mikvah? It's a shayla to be asked. It's a shayla to be asked. What should I tell you? It's a mitzvah. It's a shayla to be asked. But again, going to what we said before, if it's just going to create so much aggravation and so much friction, okay, but it's a shayla to be asked. But finally, and we're officially over time right now, I apologize. I'll say it in story. A couple called up. They were mamish newly married. They're going to a hotel for Pesach, and her Leil Tefillah fell out on the first night of Yontif. So Baruch Hashem, at least it was that. But they're in a hotel, and there's no mikvah in the hotel. So what do? So there's a mikvah 25 minutes away. Drive. 25 minutes away, drive. So what do they do? So the answer in this story is what you do is you ask a shayla. That's the answer. That's the answer. And I know that keeps on being the answer because these are all subjective. Yeah. Ask a shayla. No, it's true. It's true. If we got that chizik, it's always, but I will tell you the kula, so you'll know something exists. And now once you know something exists, you'll know what to ask. Ramosha Feinstein has a hallmark tshuva, in which he discusses bungalows. The bungalows are no mikvahs. So for Zakra Moshe, we have thousands of Yidden that the Leil Tefillah comes out Friday night. She can't go to the mikvah. And then Ramosha really is the precise case, if I remember correctly, he's daning, is that she's not going to be able to go, and then he's going back to the city. So it's not going to be just one night. I mean, it's not just Friday night to Motzei Shabbos. It could end up being a prolonged matzav. But that detail is more what the Rav would weigh when you ask him. But Ramosha has an incredible kula. Ramosha says she could go to the mikvah by day. So Moshe's kula, which is Keneged Shulchan Aruch, not Keneged Shulchan Aruch, within the Rishonim of Shulchan Aruch. And Ramosha says his line is you go to the mikvah by day, but they can't be together until night, because you're not allowed to be together. She's not really tar until nightfall. The problem is, what does that mean? Go to the mikvah by day, not be together. But it's like, okay, we trust you. Doesn't work. That is the derabana, not to be together. So Ramosha said, what? Yeah, but
very normal.
Which way?
Turbulent day and waiting.
No, it's good. So very good. So Bisman Beis make Dush Meher V'Yameinu. No, you're right. No, but the difference is here. No, but I'll tell you the difference. By Nida, there was a derabanan created. Yeah, correct. Oh, of course. If we go into Sugya Avad, it's Pasha. But the point is, there was a specific derabanan not to go by day, and Ramesh says you can go by day. Okay, Lamaisa, how does it work? Says Ramesh, you're not together, and you have to create a matziv that there won't be any form of potential intimacy until nightfall. So this couple called that the Rav that they asked, and the Rav was in Eretz Yisrael, and then we were in America, so it didn't work. The Rav said you can't be miyached with each other. You can't have yichud. So this couple called to ask, so I'm going to drive her to the mikvah, and I'll drive her back. That's not called yichud because it's during the day. And then we'll be in the hotel, so we'll be in public areas. Is that okay? That is not okay. That's not what Ramosha meant. Ramosha meant you can't be miyached. You can't be in any, not in hilchos yichud. Practical, you can't be in a secluded area, in any form of area, because that's the older rabbanon. You might come to be together. So that matziv, and again, there are times for such a kula. Yes, she went by day. She took an Uber on her own. She went by day. What? She didn't have a license. Yeah, I'm not sure why she didn't drive. I don't know. Kacha. She took an Uber. Yeah, whatever it is. She took an Uber. She came back, and then the matziv was that they made sure they don't go up to the room together. Many times, Rabbanim will tell you that you should do it and come home right before, 20 minutes before Shabbos, right? Because the point is you have to drive, right? So you plan it properly. You go 20 minutes, come 20 minutes to Shabbos. And when you come home, the husband leaves the shul. And then he comes back to shul. That's the first time that you're together. I'm not saying this as a carte blanche heter. And most mikvahs, by the way, won't even let you go by day. They won't open up by day. In mainstream communities, there's actually rules. Mikvahs do not open by day. Nikuda happens to be you're out of town, you're traveling, you're this, you're that, you're whatever it is. Okay, there is what I'm saying this to realize that it's a shaila, and a shaila should be asked, and there could be what to be done. B'siyata d'shmaya. Hopefully, with the yes. Only for Kalas.
Are you allowed to lie?
Hi, I'm Akala. I happen to be my 7 kids in the car, and yeah. Siyata d'shmaya, the extra vigilance in Inyane Kedusha should be a schos for everyone, and most notably for the sponsor of the breakfast. We know Shiras Gishmak, but without a breakfast, it's that much harder to change, which is a schos for Shalema for Cyril Bas Freidiental B'Seich Sha'ar Chayle Yisrael.